They say space is the final frontier, but when you take a look around Earth, there still seems to be a lot of unconquered locations. Sure, we've only managed to explore around 5% of the oceans, yet above the waves, on land, there are still many areas that are so desolate and isolated that only a few people manage to live there. We're not so sure what sort of cell reception or internet service these places have, so before we start our tour, be sure to pack a satellite phone and a good GPS receiver. Bouvet Island. If you're into remote icy islands, then we'd like to suggest Bouvet Island for your consideration. This uninhabited chunk of rock and ice sits deep in the South Atlantic, 1,600 miles from South Africa and 1,100 miles from Antarctica. With inhospitable weather and under threat from earthquakes, Bouvet Island is a Norwegian territory that gets the occasional visitor. Over the past few decades, some research and weather stations have been set up, but no real settlements yet, probably because the only way to get there is by ship-borne helicopter. Cape York, Australia. While the land down under is home to some rather unusual and dangerous creatures, we don't think of it as isolated. Yet there are still parts of this continent which are quite remote. Take for instance, Cape York. Located in far north Queensland, Australia, there are a scattering of tiny settlements up on this peninsula. In order to reach the Cape, you must travel along unpaved roads which require the use of a four-wheel drive vehicle. The nearest major settlement is Cooktown, over 370 miles, or around a 24-hour drive away. Kerguelen Islands. Also known as the Desolation Islands, you can probably imagine why we'd include the Kerguelen Islands in this video. This French territory is located in the southern Indian Ocean, although some pictures make it seem like it's on another planet altogether. Cold with high winds and rough waters, Kerguelen is home to some researchers and scientists. While you technically can travel to this outpost, we wouldn't advise it. You see, if there's an emergency, the closest help is on Reunion Island, over 2,000 miles away, and 6 days by boat. La Rinconada, Peru. Alright, enough with this island stuff. Let's head high up into the Andes of Peru and visit La Rinconada. At just over 3 miles above sea level, this town is the highest permanent settlement in the world. The weather is too cold for trees to grow, and the mountainous land means there are no proper sewers or even running water. Despite this, somehow 30,000 people live there. La Rinconada is connected to the outside world by road, but as you can imagine, it's a rather treacherous dirt route. Tristan da Cunha. This isolated South Atlantic island is home to just 260 people. It has a harbor, so travel to this land by boat is possible. That said, life here isn't easy, and when a fire destroyed several of the island's generators a few years ago, you can imagine how uncomfortable things got. If you need to leave the island for whatever reason, don't expect an easy trip. All travel is by boat, with Africa being around 1,600 miles away. The equally isolated St. Helena is the closest inhabited island, and even that is 1,500 miles away. Pitcairn Island. Located smack dab in the middle of nowhere in the Pacific, 4 islands make up the Pitcairn Islands, but only Pitcairn itself is inhabited. Originally settled by mutineers from the infamous HMS Bounty, today there are reportedly fewer than 50 people living there. The island has one general store, open only 3 days a week, and it receives its goods from New Zealand once every 3 months. At 1,300 miles to Tahiti and over 3,000 miles to New Zealand, we'd say this place was pretty isolated. Devon Island. What sets Devon Island apart from the rest is that it's the largest uninhabited island on the planet. Located far up in northern Canada, Devon is home to a desolate landscape of snow, mountains, and very few living creatures. Every now and then, the odd research group travels there. However, we think the fact researchers use Devon Island to prepare and test equipment for the future exploration of Mars proves just how desolate and isolated this place really is. Itokortumet, Greenland. Let's face it, Greenland is pretty remote to begin with, so you know that when we pick a specific town in Greenland to single out as isolated, it must be special. As you can see, the houses in Itokortumet are pretty colorful. We think they have to be because the landscape is so bleak. The population of around 450 people hunts and fishes. They also stay in contact with the outside world thanks to helicopters and boats, which are limited by weather and the time of year. Oymyakon, Russia. When we mention Siberia, you likely picture a vast expanse of cold, icy wilderness stretching as far as the eye can see. That's perfect. Located in the northwest Sakha Republic of Russia, Oymyakon isn't just isolated, it's cold. In fact, it's so cold here that it has the record for being the coldest permanent settlement in the world. With record temperatures dipping to negative 90 degrees Fahrenheit, we suggest packing a scarf. If you forgot yours, try checking at the next closest town, a 2-day drive away. Longyearbyen. Keeping it cold and northerly, let's drop by the remote settlement of Longyearbyen. Situated between Norway and the North Pole is the archipelago of Svalbard. As the administrative center of this Norwegian territory, Longyearbyen is home to around 2,000 people. It's chilling to think that Longyearbyen is actually closer to the North Pole than the coast of Norway, which is 500 miles south. Have no fear though, as it's apparently just a 4-hour flight to get back to Oslo.